Our next author, Brandon Stanton. In the summer of 2010, photographer Brandon Stanton began an ambitious project to single-handedly create a photographic census of New York City. The photos he took and the accompanying interviews became the blog Humans of New York. In the first 3 years, his audience steadily grew from a few hundred to over 1 million fans, as fans continue to discover and connect with Brandon's project. Humans of New York provides a worldwide audience with daily glimpses into the lives of strangers in New York City and is followed by over 15 million people on several social media platforms. Brandon was honored as a 2013 Time magazine 30 People Under 30 Changing the World and an ABC News Person of the Week. He has told stories from around the world in collaboration with the United Nations and was invited to photograph President Obama in the Oval Office. He has raised nearly $1.5 million for Mott Hall Bridges Academy, a middle school located in the neighborhood with the highest crime rate in New York City, and worked with the Robin Hood Foundation to spotlight those on the front lines of the battle against poverty in New York. In 2013, Brandon published his first book, Humans of New York, based on the blog. It immediately catapulted to the top of the New York Times Bestseller List, where it became a fixture for 45 weeks. 2014 brought a children's book and another bestseller, Little Humans. But in the months and years that followed the publication of his first book, the blog has continued to evolve. The interviews have become much deeper, and the stories have grown longer and more intimate. Hitting stores this October, Humans of New York Stories reflects this evolution with the best material from the past 2.5 years and 100 stories that have never been seen before. Please join me in welcoming Brandon Stanton.
Diana is so cool. She's just awesome. So I'm known for telling thousands of stories of individuals on the street one at a time, which is a very different experience to speaking to 1,000 people all at one time. Diana was like coaching me backstage. She's like, put away your notes. This is your story. You don't need those notes. And she said, it's good to be nervous. That means you respect the audience. And so I just want to let you guys know I respect you so much. So 5 years ago, I was trading bonds in Chicago. I was working in finance, and things weren't going very well. It became apparent that I was going to lose my job. And, for those past 2 years, I've been working for 2 years, I kind of got that job right out of college. All I'd been thinking about was making money. And it's not that I was that kind of person. I always viewed myself as a creative person. I think the mindset that I had was, I'm going to make my money, and then I'm going to do what I really want to do, which is, make films. I wasn't sure. I just wanted to do something creative. And at the end of 2 years, I went on a really bad stretch, and I lost my job. And I had nothing to show for those past 2 years, where all my thought energy and all my time went into how to make money. And so I made a decision at the end of those 2 years that would really change my life. And I decided that it wasn't kind of a lifetime decision. I said for the next 6 months, I'm going to do something for no other reason than because I love it. And that happened to be photography. And when I lost my job, I said, I just want to do this full time. And so I told my mom, my poor mother, because, I flunked out of college. I was that guy. Every single day I would just go out and I would photograph everything I saw. And then I started to gravitate towards taking pictures of people, just kind of candid shots of people. I'd see them across the street, and I'd sneak the picture. And then I kind of got up the courage to stop these people on the street. And I would take a photo of them, and I'd ask them for their photo, and then I would take it. And I was always like so nervous when I went up to these people. And I'd be so nervous to ask for their photo. And then I finally kind of got up the courage to do it. And so I said, I'm going to move to New York. I'd never been to New York before. I decided to move to New York 48 hours after I set foot in the city for the first time, photographing. And I'm going to take 10,000 pictures of people on the street. And somehow that will equal success. And so I moved to New York, and it was so lonely at first. Because everybody thought it was just the craziest idea, and I was broke. I was on unemployment. I had like $1,000 coming in every month or something like that, and I was sleeping on a mattress in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Brooklyn, and it was just a mattress on the floor, and the walls were completely empty. And I was only eating 2 meals a day because I couldn't afford to eat out, and I had to wait till I came home every day to eat my bowl of Cheerios and my turkey sandwich. But I just loved going out there every day. I just loved it. I had nothing to show for it. Nobody was following it, but I just loved photographing every single day. And over the course of doing that, I started to kind of develop this small following of people that were started to follow me just to see the latest photograph that I took every day. And then one day I photographed this woman, and she was wearing all green. And I remember she said something to me. She said, I used to be a different color every day, but one day I wore green, and that was a great day. So I've been green for 15 years, she said. And that moment changed everything, because I realized something. I realized, I got over this fear to approach these people. Why don't I take the next logical step and find out who these people are? From that moment to the present day, the story of Humans of New York has been me learning how to stop a stranger on the street and in a 10 or 15 minute period, ask them these questions that will give a very intimate portrait of their life. And if you follow Humans of New York, the power of it is that you're looking at a stranger, just somebody that I happen to encounter on the street. But they're telling you things to 15 million people that they haven't told their wives or their kids or their best friends, because nobody's ever really asked. Now, when I stop these people on the street, I don't ask, what do you think needs to be done in American politics, or who's your favorite sports team? I ask things like, what do you feel most guilty about? And after approaching 10,000 people on the streets of New York City, I've traveled to 12 different countries. I've approached people on the streets of Iraq. I've approached people on the streets of Iran. I've approached people on the streets of South Sudan, Democratic Republic of Congo. Not only I found, will a stranger allow you to take their photo, but if you genuinely care and you're genuinely curious about someone, there's really nothing a stranger won't tell you about their lives, because we all are so desperate for our stories to be told. And any of our stories, any of your stories, we all have that drama. We all have that heartbreak. We all have those crazy characters in our lives. And the story of any stranger on the street, when given the same amount of attention that we give to Kanye's story or Kim Kardashian's story, when given that same amount of weight and attention, can captivate an audience of 15 million people every single night. It could produce a book that was on the bestseller list for 45 weeks, because all those stories are out there, and they're all equally important if we put the same amount of importance on there. When I got that call from my agent, and these people sitting right here for St. Martin's, they were the only publisher, really, the big publisher. There were a couple really small offers that took a chance on it. And when I got that call that the book had become a #1 New York Times bestseller, I sat in a parking lot in the Brooklyn Navy Yards and I sobbed for 2 hours straight, because all that risk and all that loneliness and all that crazy dreaming that I had that would make me move to New York when I didn't know anybody and walk the streets had suddenly just been validated in such a big, old-fashioned way that I could show Grandma, you know? It was, yeah. And you know, like they said, I'm so excited about this next book coming out because I've only been doing this for 5 years. And I told you guys about this evolution of it, where it went from photography to having these very deep conversations with people on the street. And when that first book came out, that evolution was just beginning to happen. And so there's a whole phase of my work and a whole phase of the stories of people on the street that haven't been told yet. And I'm so excited to get to share those this fall. And thank you all so much for your role in helping to spread that.
Funding for BookView Now is provided by the Wincote Foundation.